This is the Green Machine Podcast, your Irish football news and nostalgia, where you, the fans, get to have your say. Nick hosting alongside our favourite Granny Rule recruit, Martin, as we chat women national team as the girls in green take on Hungary days after making history in Lansdowne Road. Then Azaz catches the eye in a successful weekend for the Irish, and the rugby team rattle a few Irish football fans. This plus much more on the Green Machine Podcast. And we get rid of that crap music. That's more like it, Martin, isn't it? How are you, Martin? How are you doing? I'm hosting in place of David today, and I'm very happy to be. So, I mean, there's been a few issues with his job, hasn't there? Do you want to maybe explain it to us, Martin? I mean, we've heard some unfortunate rumors about his workload, and I think it's only right that we give him a little bit of pity.
Yeah, Dave has been working incredibly hard, and when Dave works hard, he obviously lets us know that he's working hard. I think, is that violins? This is similar to violins, I suppose. It's the best we could do, Dave. But we know that Dave was working.
33-hour shift.
Yeah, 33-hour shift, and he let us know about it. So
good time today. I'm thinking about this time. Dave, if you're listening.
That's his job.
We've got a bit of Roy Keane.
It's your job, Dave.
Yeah,
it's your job, Dave. Just get on with it. Get on with it, and stop whinging to us. I'm only messing. No, to be fair, he's worked very hard, hasn't he? And we'll give him the little bit of pity that he deserves. Right, Martin. So plenty to discuss today. So as we mentioned, we're going to speak about the women's national team. Controversial words last week in the press conferences, followed by an emphatic 3-0 win against Northern Ireland at Lansdowne Road, a 35,000 capacity crowd, which was a history-making capacity crowd, actually. So we are going to chat a little bit about that. And of course, those controversial comments. And the girls in green, they do take on Hungary tomorrow. I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten about that. Kind of in between the record-breaking attendances and also the words last week. So we are going to go through that. But of course, we are going to start off the week by going through the boys in green, or our boys in green, rather. And I suppose discussing how our lads got on over the weekend. So bear with me a second, because as you can tell already, I cannot work StreamYard. Okay, so a very successful weekend for, I suppose, a lot of our current internationals and I suppose a few of the lads on the fringes. So we're going to read through some of the stats. So Adamaida, 2 goals for Norwich City in their 6-2 loss to Plymouth Argyle. And Finn Azaz with the goal and an assist for Plymouth. So I suppose Azaz, Martin, he's been kind of the standout player over the last couple of weeks for Plymouth. I mean, people have been comparing him to I suppose, an Aldi Zinedine Zidane, haven't they? But getting a lot of people excited, hasn't he? Because, I mean, he's on loan from Aston Villa. He's been knocking around quite a while. He was on loan with Argyle last season. He showed quite a bit of class over the weekend against Shane Duffy and Adamaida, didn't he? I mean, he really ran them ragged.
Yeah, especially the goal. I mean, Shane Duffy must be having nightmares about him, to be honest. Incredible goal and really sold him. People have done a lot of kind of memes and things like that. I've sent him to wherever it was. Yeah, like really good as well. Like just the level of quality from him. The assist was very good as well. Great ball, really well-weighted ball in for the goal. So yeah, he's one we've got to keep an eye on. I mean, it's just interesting in the championship. You're seeing the players doing really well. Let's not forget Adamaida is on a good run now, scoring 2 goals in that. It seems a bit of an epic match. We're trying to follow it. But yeah, I mean, and that's great for Ireland, seeing him scoring. Aaron Connolly, of course, as well. But, it's just an interesting one, the championship. It's very, very competitive, and you get these freakish kind of results. And yeah, good to see, though, for Azaz. And I think the speculation now that he's going to be called up, same as Sammy Schmodix again, who was also on the score sheet.
Yeah, so kind of moving on to, I suppose, Sammy Smoddick's goal for Blackburn Rovers. They lost 4-3 to Ipswich Town. And Aaron Connolly, another goal for Hull City as they beat Stoke City 3-1. A serious renaissance, Martin, from Connolly. I know we've discussed him for the last couple of weeks. I know I wasn't on last week, but I mean, Connolly, he's really knuckled down. I think it's been well documented that he had a very good preseason in terms of kind of rehabilitation and getting himself back up to speed. But I mean, he's probably going to be pushing for a starting place for Ireland, isn't he? Because I mean, if you look at our strikers at the moment, I mean, Adam Ida in form, doing very, very well, but Michael Obafemi's still injured. Callum Robinson still hasn't quite come back into things. Evan Ferguson, you know, it looks like he's really managing that injury at the moment, isn't he, Martin? And David is speculating that he mightn't even feature in the next round of games if they're dead rubber. So, I mean, Connolly's certainly pushing for I suppose more involvement with the senior team, having come back last month.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, did all right in Paris when he came on, but I think, you know, we need him fit and firing for us now, and he is a threat. You know, it's not so long ago really where he was one of the great hopes that we were kind of reliant on going forward, and you know, it didn't work out for him. But you know, maybe he has knuckled down. I'm going to give him the benefit. It's what we want to see, though. That's the thing. It's not about slagging him off and saying writing him off. We want to see him knuckle down and scoring goals week in, week out. That's why we do O Big, and we want to see the lads kind of featuring on it for actually doing what they're obviously paid to do.
Do you think he was unlucky only to get a bit of a cameo in France? Because I mean, he's in form. He's in form, and we saw the likes of, I suppose, Jamie McGrath, who actually scored at the weekend, so I probably shouldn't be slagging him, but we saw Jamie McGrath come on to try and make an impact against the Dutch, and Aaron Connolly nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen him come on against Holland, without doubt, to kind of really test them at that part of the game. You know, pace and stuff was going to be something I think we could have had. I think that's what he does offer us a little bit. And, you know, we mentioned, like, you know, Mikey Johnson's out. Well, I know he's coming back at the moment, but he was out of that game. And I think Connolly does have that pace. And that would have been useful, I think, against Holland. But he went with the changes, didn't he? Put Sinclair Armstrong on for a debut. I can understand why he did that as well. But yeah, I think there was rumours, wasn't there? I think I said it on the last podcast that he, you know, when Sinclair Armstrong came on and the other change that was made late on, that Aaron Connolly kind of disappeared off down the tunnel, apparently. I did hear that, but I don't know if that's been kind of verified or not. But you would hope that he does integrate himself into the Ireland squad, because he's a really talented player and he's doing really well now with his club, and that's what we want to see. But, you know, I have said in the past that I've kind of always wondered about his integration to the squad. He seems a bit aloof, a little bit kind of moody. He has to...
Well, you've seen him. You stalk the team, don't you, Martin? I mean, you stay in the same hotels, and you were quite observant into how Connolly, I suppose, sees himself within the squad. You said he can be quite isolated. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I've seen him come in. He's got, like, you know, the lads go out for a walk. You know, as part of the pre-match kind of ritual, go for a little walk around, and you know, he's the one who's got the jacket on and the hood up, and just seems like a bit away from it all and a bit distant. That's what I found before, but maybe, you know, I'll give him the benefit. Maybe that was a couple of years ago now. So you would just hope that he is a little bit more mature now, and certainly seems to be firing the goals in, seems to be doing really well. I think he's quite active now on social media, probably for the right things, sharing his goals and talking about that rather than, you know, going out partying.
Yeah, gone out in Brighton on the absolute lash. But no, I mean, he's one of those confidence players, isn't he, Martin? We've always spoken about how good he is and how talented he is. I mean, some of the goals he's scoring, they're all very different, aren't they? I mean, a looping header last week, and then what I loved about the goal this week, you know, the goal against Stoke, the way he times his run. I mean, I can't remember who it was who actually broke into the box. It was, you know, Cyrus Christie, by the way, played very well for Hull the weekend, but. Anyway, the winger gets to the byline, and Connolly just holds his run, and because he holds his run, he gets into that position to score, and that's intelligence. You know, that is intelligence. And as I said, for a guy who's 5'8", I think he is. You know, a looping header, a goal where he's timing the runs really, really perfectly. You know, he's scoring all types of different goals, and he's got a good physicality. You know, I don't know if he looks like he's carrying a bit of weight still, or if that's maybe just his build. Maybe he's just quite a stocky guy, and he's obviously not the tallest, so maybe that's just his build. But you can see that he's quite a powerful player, quite a robust player. And, you know, I'd like to see him come in from a wide position, you know, and kind of in from the left for Ireland. I'd love to see him in that position. But I think at the moment, on form and on confidence, you'd be looking at him to maybe grab a start in the next round of games. So just continue on there with Old Big. So Mark McGuinness, a goal for Cardiff City in their 1-0 win versus Sunderland. Now, Martin, quick one here. Robbie Brady made his comeback for Preston North End in their 1-1 draw with Rotherham, getting an assist in the process. Now, David wrote him off a couple of years ago. Do you remember that, Martin?
I do remember that. Yeah, he did.
Do you remember that? And by the way, can I just mention, David is working very, very hard, isn't he? That's why he's not on tonight.
He is working very hard, and I know he does love his solo YouTube videos and things like that, like someone else who's been doing a few of them recently. No link there, I don't think, on anything else. But
no, I don't think so.
No, but it's all part of the brand. So we need to just look after Dave. But yeah, he did write Robbie Brady off. We won't let him forget that, and he did.
We won't let him forget that. We won't let him forget that.
Now, we have to admit we do love Robbie Brady, and we often spoke about how much we thought Robbie Brady could kind of do a job anywhere for Ireland. I always wanted to see him kind of as a number 10 role. I thought he was a really talented player. Dead balls as well, fantastic from set plays, but.
Because he's playing as a wing, playing as a wing back at the moment, Martin. And I mean, there's been a lot of moving around in the wing back position, hasn't there? Left wing back. I mean, James McLean's played there. There's been, I suppose, divided opinion on his suitability to play in there. I think he's done absolutely fine, but there is a limitation with James McLean. Matt Doherty has played there again, being right-footed. It probably isn't ideal. And Ryan Manning, he got a little bit of time in the last international window, didn't he? But didn't really get a chance to really come into it. Where Brady was deemed a left wing back by Sir Alex Ferguson, wasn't he? Before he was even a winger. But he was meant to be kind of Patrice Evra's backup, wasn't he? Before he went to Hull City, and then Brady took the decision to actually leave Manchester United. So, he could probably go in there. He could probably go in there as a left wing back. As you said, he could probably go into a number 10 position. I personally think his best football for Ireland has been kind of on the left-hand side of a midfield three, where he's able to grab the ball in the middle of the field and drive forward. Now, does he have that ability now to drive forward? I don't think so. Has he got that same robustness, that same kind of finesse that he had a few years ago? I don't think so. But there has to be a role for Robbie Brady in the Ireland squad if he's getting a bit of form.
I think if he comes back and starts playing for Preston, I'd have him in the Ireland squad still. I just think he's too talented not to. And I think we have to commend him as well. The last time he was left out of the squad and he did actually make himself available, he got a late call up. I think maybe it was when Ryan Manning pulled out. And he did make himself available. He was actually on holiday that time. Keith Andrews actually said it to us at West London that, he was called up and he made himself available, left his kind of family on holiday to answer the call, which is amazing. And I know that's professional football, of course, but, I think we could definitely get a renaissance out of Robbie Brady if we can keep him fit. He's just such a clever footballer. And I think I would be hesitant to rule him out, his future with Ireland. I think we are crying out for that player in those games where there's a kind of very low, deep defense that we've got to kind of break down. I think that's where he can pick up space in the pockets and perhaps open people up a little bit, like I thought Troy Parrott was going to be as well.
Yeah, and on that, Martin, I mean,
he could teach a lot.
Yeah. And on that, in the very early days of the Stephen Kenny era, he was playing Robbie Brady kind of sporadically, wasn't he? But I watched a few games back recently. I was doing a little piece for the website, and I was watching some of the games back, and some of the chances Robbie Brady was creating, we haven't seen that. I know this sounds very extreme, but we haven't seen that level of creativity from many players in the Ireland squad in the last year or so. Maybe definitely from Jason Knight. I mean, he's certainly a creative outlet, but Brady was getting involved in the middle of the park. He was whipping balls in. He was creating chances. He hit the post in a game. I can't remember which. It could have been the Finland game.
And Wales. He done well against Wales, didn't he?
Yeah, Wales as well. But just always make it. Looking to make something happen. And as I said, he's kind of reverted into that left wing back slot for Preston, who are unbeaten, by the way, Martin. Unbeaten, by the way, in the championship. So, he'd be an interesting one. I mean, look, he's been out for a long time. The injury wasn't really well documented, I don't think. And when he was missing from squads, I think people thought the worst. And then just by chance, I don't know if it was on a stream or if it was privately, but someone let us know that they'd actually spoken to him. It was a Preston fan that they'd actually spoken to him and said that he was going to be back pretty soon. So, look, let us know what you think in the comments. As always, be sure to have your say and do leave a comment. Right, Martin. So I suppose we better get back to the rest of Big, seeing as I've digressed on Robbie Brady, as I love to do. So James Collins, 2 goals for Derby County in their 2-0 win versus Carlisle. And then I suppose going back to Notts County again, as we do every week. Now it seems to be a running theme. Dan Crowley scoring a goal against Forest Green Rovers, and Dave McGoldrick a goal and an assist for Notts County in the same game. So, I mean, the two boys doing very, very well. In League Two, well, we do have players playing in League Two, don't we, Martin? Yeah. And just to move on to, I suppose, outside of England. So, Jamie McGrath, goal for Aberdeen, their 4-0 win over Ross County. And moving into Austria, Connor Noss, an assist for Blau-Weiß Linz in their 1-0 shock win versus RB Salzburg. Jesus, not RB Leipzig, RB Salzburg. So Connor Noss playing his part in a shock victory for the newly promoted side in Austria, beating the perennial Austrian champions, really. I'm pretty sure they're Austrian champions this year. Could be wrong in that. And then Troy Parrott, an absolute screamer, Martin. He scored for Excelsior in their 3-0 win versus Herenveen. What did you think of that goal, Martin? A very, very instinctive goal by a very, very talented player who sadly hasn't been getting a lot of game time in the last couple of months, but it looks like he's hopefully going to get a bit of a run for his new club.
Yeah, brilliant to see again. I thought it was a bit of a mystery for me how he was going off there, to be honest. And, as I think he's probably got to be a bit careful. Although I think he's well connected with certain people. Perhaps allegedly, he might be able to look after himself in Holland if it does kick off like it did at Ajax's stadium the other night when they started wrecking it. We're going there, aren't we, as well? Is that the stadium? Is that the same stadium? Did Ajax play it? Is the Cruyff Stadium? Is that where
Excelsior's?
No, I'm on about the Ajax wrecked their stadium the other night, didn't they?
Oh yeah, it is the same one. Yeah,
the
Cruyff,
one where Ireland are going in November. So we always seem to be linked
going to stadiums
that get problems.
Yeah, they get wrecked. Yeah, not a good look, is it?
No. But yeah, look, brilliant to see him doing well, Troy Parrott, and he was in and out, hasn't he, recently? And you're just thinking, what's kind of going on there? It's a little bit like what we've had with Aaron Conley in a sense that we've in the squad, out the squad. What's really going on? Is there something in the background? I know he's had a few injury problems as well, but it was a mystery to me that he went over to Holland. I could understand it though. And I hope it does work out for him. But yeah, we want to see him scoring goals, and it was a great goal as well. So yeah, very good.
Absolutely, and I mean, any bit of form for our strikers is really, really important. I mean, if you look at the championship table, actually, Martin, I mean, Sammy Smodix, Will Keane, I think they're top of the table at the moment. And then you've got Adam Ida fairly close under Liam Delap as well. I know he qualifies for Ireland. We won't go there, will we? But but a lot of Irishmen very, very high up in the championship. So it's great to see Troy Parrott doing well. I mean, he was linked with Feyenoord a couple of years ago, wasn't he? So he nearly ended up in the Eredivisie. But now that he's there, hopefully it's the start of a purple patch for him, because he's a very talented guy.
I know we've spoken about Sammy Smolix on it before, and week in, week out. He's got to be in the squad though, hasn't he, Nick? He's surely got to be called up now. Like, you can't keep scoring every week and being ignored.
Yeah, and it's kind of why I suppose the question you have to ask is, why is he not? And if you look at Stephen Kenny's teams, he hasn't necessarily played with the number 10, has he? And I don't want to get too technical or anything, but we've seen the likes of Jamie McGrath and Jason Knight, who are 2 number 10s, play off the left. And you wonder maybe if Smodix can do a similar role, because, I mean, I honestly feel that one of the missing links in the Stephen Kenny team is a bit of composure in the final third. And what you need is a player that can hang on to the ball there, a good technical player. It's a little bit like when Wes Hoolahan was available for us and he wasn't getting picked. There's similarities with him, isn't there, with Smodix and Hoolahan? They're both small guys, 5'6" or so, very technically good, very quick on the ball, very good feet. I'd actually argue that Smodix is just that little bit more explosive. Probably has a bit more goals in this game. Chases down back fours very, very well. Chases down centre halves. Puts a lot of pressure on defences. So, we talk about Stephen Kenny and the football he plays in the passing game, and that when it gets to the final third, there's absolutely no basis to what's going to happen, and no kind of structure to what the end product is going to be. But Smodix would kind of knit all of that together nicely, I think. The only things I can think of, Martin, maybe he doesn't like his attitude. I know that there was, there's been talk that he's a bit of a boyo, and no major basis on that. That's all kind of little rumors and bits and pieces that we've heard on, I suppose, different WhatsApp groups and different Telegram groups and stuff like that. And then the only other thing is you can speculate that maybe Hungary are looking at him, because Hungary have recruited from England before. They have gone down the lower leagues and recruited English players of Hungarian descent. So that's the only other thing. But he only got his passport recently. Apparently, when he was at Colchester as a young player, he was saying in interviews how he wanted to play for Ireland. So you'd imagine that there is a want there to play for Ireland, but maybe it's more an issue that Stephen Kenny doesn't fancy him, but he has to be in there. He has to be in there.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, 3 weeks away from the game, really, the Greek game. And again, I said it as well, and on the one with Dave most recently. And, I think this is a key window for us, this next 2 games where we are staying with Stephen Kenny. But, if we get a result against Greece at home, and then we will beat Gibraltar away.
Yeah,
it's a good window. And that New Zealand match doesn't matter, but you could finish on a real high then with New Zealand playing the Netherlands away, which Ireland are going to have good support there as well. So this window is very important, I think, for Stephen Kenny, and this kind of might well suit Sammy Szmodic's coming in there, having a number 10 in the squad, because Gibraltar will come and they'll just stay and defend, won't they? And you kind of got to open them up. So it's all about it's really picking him in that squad, I say, for the second game, in a sense, the player who can perhaps do that.
Yeah, no, different type of player, Martin. And, I mean, I suppose Jason Knight has kind of been fulfilling that role, hasn't he? But I mean, Kenny has to go on form, and a lot of our form players aren't getting picked. Right, so we're going to move the chat on there to the women's national team. So they do take on Hungary tomorrow in their second game of the Nations League. So following on from their 3-0 win over Northern Ireland at Lansdowne Road on Saturday, where, of course, as we mentioned a couple of times in that very hectic start of the show, that they did record a record attendance of 35,000 spectators at the game. So, of course, Lucy Quinn, Kaya Carusa and Lily Agg all scoring in that game. Our first ever women's game at Lansdowne Road. So a couple of extracts from Eileen Gleeson here, I suppose just in the build-up to the game with Ireland taking on Hungary in the Nandor Stadium in Budapest. Very nice looking stadium, Martin. I don't know if you've seen it. It's where the 17s played a couple of months ago. Very compact. I remember looking at it thinking, Jesus, why not have a couple of these in the League of Ireland if the funds were there, which they aren't. But anyway, a couple of extracts here from Eileen Gleeson. So Hungary will be a difficult opponent, and playing at home gives them an extra edge, said Gleeson, who's in charge following Vera Pauw's exit as manager. The build-up to the Republic of Ireland's inaugural Women's Nations League was dominated by the departure of Pauw following the World Cup, with defender Diane Caldwell saying that the team had qualified in spite of their former manager. So we're going to come back to that in a second, Martin. However, with Gleeson taking charge on an interim basis, the Republic swept the Northern Ireland to one side as they put in a comprehensive performance in front of a record crowd of 35,995 fans at Lansdowne Road. They now travel to Hungary with the aim of consolidating their place at the top of the group, and Gleeson says her side won't take anything for granted. And she continues, we had an excellent start to our UEFA Nations League campaign with the win over Northern Ireland in front of a record crowd. It was a historic day, but now our full focus is on the next game against Hungary to ensure that we do all we can to take the 3 points on offer. Martin, before we move into, I suppose, the bit that people maybe don't want to listen to anymore, which is the comments regarding Vera Pauw a couple of weeks ago, how do you fancy the girls' chances tomorrow against a Hungary team, which is considered to be a little bit below our level? Great win at the weekend, and they'll hope to take the momentum into this away game.
Yeah, no, I'm very confident they'll get a result now tomorrow. That we haven't got the most toughest group in our Nations League. We've got Albania and obviously Northern Ireland, who we've already beaten at home. So, this is the first of the away games, though. Hungary, I think it will be a test in some respects. It's on 6 o'clock, isn't it, tomorrow on RT2? Yeah. So brilliant again to see, the nation's TV channels getting behind the girls and showing it. So, raising the profile, of course, of the women's game. We're big supporters of it, aren't we? I know Dave's not the biggest fan of the.
No, Dave loves women,
but maybe he does love women. But yeah, sorry, I have got that wrong. But yeah, look, brilliant the other day. It was that fantastic occasion, and to be fair to them, they did the job, and an amazing day out. A 1 o'clock kickoff, obviously to avoid clashing with the rugby, and I think Northern Ireland's Women's League as well was taking place at that time as well. So trying not to clash domestically. So, fair play. They got a great crowd there, 35,000. Brilliant to see some of the stars of the World Cup as well, doing really well. Big fan of Lucy Quinn, so fantastic goal for her, creating history first
Tyler
goal scorer
Toland,
for us.
excellent as well, wasn't she? Because I mean, she's a player, and we might discuss in a couple of minutes. But I suppose she was missing out under Vera Pauw, very, very highly rated. I mean, out for, I suppose, unusual reasons. A lot of thought that her father was maybe a little bit too involved there, but I mean, she certainly justified her selection, didn't he, in the midfield, or didn't she, in the midfield?
Yeah, I mean, player of the match award as well. I mean, you've got some people now. I think the narrative with the women's team, though, like going into the World Cup and the wake of Hamden's qualification, that historic night, which we're never going to forget, with Amber Barrett scoring the goal to get us there. The feel-good factor and the massive weight of support behind Irish women's football was just there for all to see. It started turning a little bit towards the World Cup with all the speculation, of course, about Vera Pauw and the investigations and things like that. And then sadly, it has, we've done very, very well getting to the World Cup, and I'm amazed really how well we did to get that result and get that point and create history doing that and be so competitive at the World Cup when you realise all the drama that was going on in the background. And I think undoubtedly, though, it's sad. It saddens me, to be honest. I'm so positive about the women's football team and, the feel-good factor. I wanted them all to be household names. And to be fair, they are now. But it has kind of stained it a little bit. And
I'm interested to get your thoughts, Martin, because I know obviously the two of us track it very closely. You in particular, and I mean, you've met
Oh, there you go, Nick. Thanks for that. You left me on a bit of a bombshell there. I think you were going to ask me what my thoughts are with the women's.
Right,
he's coming back in there now. There you go, Nick. You frightened me to death there.
No, I know. As I said, Dave away today. What happens, messing up yard. But I was just kind of saying, I'm curious to get your thoughts, because I mean, you've promoted the game so much. You've met a few of the girls on many occasions, and those comments a couple of weeks ago, I mean, we discussed all these things privately, and we're all for players being outspoken. We're all for players maybe giving an opinion. You don't really see it too much in the men's game, but I think it was the contrasting interviews and the contrasting signals that were given between the FAI press conference or press briefing or whatever they were calling it, Katie McCabe's comments that player power wasn't at play in Vera Pauw's dismissal, and then Diane Caldwell all of a sudden coming out and saying that they qualified in spite of Vera Pauw. So a lot of different contrasting views. It did upset a lot of people, but also a lot of people were very refreshed to see Caldwell's comments. And Diane is someone who we've been in contact with during the World Cup, someone who we have a lot of admiration for. I mean, from my perspective, I always put it into, I think anything with football is very, very important with context. I see overlaps with Giovanni Trapattoni. I see overlaps with Martin O'Neill. I remember Matt Doherty coming out when Martin O'Neill was sacked, basically slating him. But at the same time, Matt Doherty didn't really play under Martin O'Neill. Diane Caldwell, she started at the weekend, didn't she? She didn't play in the World Cup. She got a cameo in the World Cup, but she didn't start. Megan Connolly actually started ahead of her, and Megan Connolly is predominantly a midfielder. So I really think if you, as we said, when you put it into context, 5-6 years ago, this team were getting changed in bathroom toilets, in bathroom, cubicles. They'd no resources. They were in a very, very low ebb. Vera Pauw has come in and I feel has performed a miracle. I don't think any manager could have done that. Colin Bell, who won a Champions League, couldn't do that. Noel King, understandably, couldn't do that. Sue Ronan, who's one of the Sue Ronan, who was so highly rated, working for FIFA at the moment. She couldn't manage to do that either. So we've had some really, really top managers come and go within the women's game in Ireland, and also golden generations pass us by. We have a very, very good young side who were kind of the rising phoenix, I suppose, of that shit show from a few years ago. And yes, Vera Pauw's approach probably wasn't easy on the eye, but it was functional. It got us results. And in my opinion, anyway, it got us some very, very honourable results in the World Cup. I don't think we'd any right to beat Australia. I don't think we'd any right to beat Canada or Nigeria. And the fact that we only lost it by a goal to each of them, with the exception of Nigeria, who we drew with, I don't think, regardless of how good our team is, I don't think we'd any right to do that. And Vera Pauw certainly certainly was a massive cog in that wheel. And I think for Caldwell to come out and say that, look, we're not on the inside, Martin, so this is me jumping to conclusions, but I thought it was unprofessional. I thought it was wrong, and I thought it was a little bit spiteful herself. Maybe as a result of not getting picked. I don't know. As I said, we've had very positive interactions with Diane, and it wouldn't be a person.
Yeah, no, I kind of take on board what Nick's saying there. Yeah, my views on this is I think in the wake of the World Cup, though, you did have the you had anyone who was featuring. Sorry, Nick, I'm just blabbering away to myself here. But no, my thoughts on that.
That was the end of my point anyway.
No, my thoughts on that though are if you think about the coverage of the World Cup on RTE as well, you know, in the studios afterwards, after the girls had sadly come home, you had Louise Quinn, Anya O'Gorman. We've had Emma Burns' views on Coy Gig and off the ball, and Karen Duggan's insight. Sue Ronan's given views. You know, we've had a chat with Sue Ronan through the World Cup as well, where she, you know, I think the expectation and what everyone wanted to see, who's kind of been part of Irish women's football, was that we want to see us develop a bit more and open up a bit more and play more and be a bit more adventurous. And really, that's what's happened now. Vera's gone, and I think the expectation is that's going to happen. I think it's interesting that it was all the senior pros, the people who are coming to the end of their careers with Ireland, who are the ones who are the most kind of vocal and giving the kind of snippets from the camp. I think that's actually designed to keep and protect Katie as a captain, because it was set up by the media that it was a Vera versus Katie thing, and how dare Katie McCabe question the manager and who does she think she is. And still, sadly, she's getting a lot of that backlash online. Yeah. You know, we posted a photo of Katie and wished her happy birthday the other day, and everyone's saying, oh, is she picking the team yet, or she's Miss Know-It-All and she's this. I just don't think there's any need for that. But I think with their profile rising, the women's game, it's just going to happen, and they've got to ignore that. I do love the interaction they have with the fans and the media as well. They're very honest and transparent. I think that's all Diana's done there. But I understand the sense of it wasn't very professional to come out and do it. I think they could have killed the story. They could have just said Vera's had her say, and it was very much she's disgruntled with the FAI. But instead, Diane's made it a bit about the players against Vera again, and I'm not very comfortable with that. I think Vera's legacy is there.
If it was consistent, I think maybe you could see it from Diane. I don't think that's the way to go about it. I think maybe you do it in an interview, maybe an interview individually. I don't think you do it in a national press conference. I think it was wrong. I think it was ill-judged. I think, you know, the team speak about, you know, several years ago, as we said, they were saying how they weren't treated as professionals, and I don't think this is how professional conducts themselves. You know, it's right to have your say, but not in that context. I think it was quite ill-judged.
No, you could have had a book now out in 6 months' time, the Irish Women's World Cup story, and have interviews with the girls and what their experience was like. And that's where you could have got perhaps Diane saying that, you know, we felt that we could have been more, you know, we could have opened up a bit more, and actually we weren't happy with certain things. And, you know, it's kind of not as fresh and current then. But obviously this is all spilled over from the speculation and, you know, dragging the FAI, dragging their heels, and Vera's going to be in the job or not, and this whole review that took place. And it's very uncomfortable seeing that. But, you know, to be positive going forward, it's brilliant seeing how Tyler Tolan came in, done very, very well. You know, Abby Larkin, of course, she's got a move from the back of the World Cup. So we're looking forward to see how she will develop. And, you know, we've got a really good team coming through there. And as I said, we've had a good start to the Nations League campaign. We've got a very good group that we can probably be a bit more open and, you know, adventurous now in our football. And I think that was a dangerous thing the other day, where they're coming out and they were kind of setting themselves up for a big fall. Now, to be fair to them, they delivered. And they got the result the other day. But I think that the narrative of women's football and how interested everyone is a little bit, we're getting a bit carried away. And that would just bring me on to my point with, you know, all right, we've done really well, get 35,000 at the Aviva or Lansdowne Road for the match. But let's remember, we were selling tickets on the back of the World Cup. People would have brought those as if it was a big homecoming. So it was a big lead up to it. Playing the North was going to be good. 1 o'clock, very family friendly time as well, and loads and loads of kids are there, and under 18s were there, and that is a lot of our support as well. I think we're getting a bit carried away if we're thinking that we're going to sell out Tuesday night in Dublin in a Nations Leagues match. That's why the two other games in the group are at home in Tala.
Yeah.
We can perhaps, if we brought England to Lansdowne Road, you'd sell it out. Possibly America as well, all the big teams. But let's be honest, that's how the Women's Premier League works in the UK. Like Arsenal play at Bournemouth Stadium, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now they sell it out because they've got a fantastic and they've really built on the fan base there. But when they're playing the Tottenham or Man United or Chelsea, they're playing that at the Emirates because they're able to fill it out. So that's how it works for these women's games, and I think we just have to be a bit true to that, because the FAI are not going to back a cash cow that's going to cost them money. And if they try and fill the Lansdowne Road for a match on a Tuesday night, they're not going to have all the kids there on a school night. They're not going to have, mums and dads bringing them out and stuff. You're just not going to do that, and they'll end up trying to give tickets away, and then
Well, they've always argued as well, Martin, that they consider Tala their home stadium anyway. And I think
that's starting to change though. They've changed that now. Like Kate and saying, "Oh, it's brilliant, such a great experience and stuff." And I think they're just pushing things too fast if they're trying to do that.
Look at for it, and not to be pessimistic, Martin, but if you look at the playoff against Scotland and Hampden Park was empty, and I actually think that actually contributed to us qualifying as well.
Yeah, without doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, and the game is growing, absolutely. But I mean, it grows at a steady pace, doesn't it? It does grow at a steady pace. And I do hope that, they could sell out Lansdowne Road, but the men can't even sell out Lansdowne Road. And, they're arguably, and I don't mean like I don't mean in a misogynistic way by any means, but, they do have a bigger profile. They do have a bigger profile, and they cannot sell out Lansdowne Road. I don't think they've ever sold out Lansdowne Road, have they? Maybe once or twice.
Since 2010, Ireland have been at Lansdowne Road, right? So the new Aviva, and I think it's 4 games that they've actually technically sold every ticket. So, and that's, look who we've had France, Holland, England, everyone there. So you just,
and that's for various reasons. That can be pricing and all kinds of things as well, where you'd hope that with the women's game that they actually targeted a bit better and that they do it more properly. But look, we'll see. It's
Tala first, consistently sell Tala out, and then build your fan base and make that attractive, and it should be there now. Tala should be selling out now on the back of that World Cup, without a doubt.
And it very well can. Yeah. So, look, unusual week, I suppose, for the girls of Green, but we do wish them the very, very best in their game against Hungary tomorrow. That game is on RTE, so make sure that you get behind the girls, and we will be reacting to that later in the week. Right, so I suppose the last thing to discuss, Martin, and this is one that I suppose we're kind of doing on the whim. So, as we know, there's another sport that's played in Ireland, another English sport, a sport that you're probably familiar with, Martin, a very English sport. And that is rugby union. So obviously the Irish rugby team beat South Africa at the weekend 13-8. And obviously qualify for the quarterfinals of the World Cup, where we'll probably go out to New Zealand. But I suppose our discussion, and we won't spend too long on this before we go into the comments, but we've really witnessed, and it's not a new theme. I mean, this has been going on for years and years, but the outcry of hate for rugby from Irish football fans. What do you make of that, Martin?
I just think it's generally what Irish people kind of do. We're a nation of begrudgers. If you can't, for many people, it has to be very kind of petty and parochial in a sense that you can't be a football fan, rugby fan, and a GAA fan, whereas actually many people are. So that's just disappointing to see. I mean, look, I want to see Ireland win at absolutely everything they compete in on the world stage, because you are ultimately marketing our little nation. And it's a nation to be very proud of course. So, I think it comes down to obviously politics and money and snobbery and things like that. But, if we all worked together as associations, we'd be in a lot better sporting nation. And we always are fighting above our kind of level in a way. And I think one of the things we should be very proud of is that we are the number 1 ranked team at rugby. And there's various reasons for that, of course. But yeah, look, I've got no problem backing them. I mean, I've never really let myself I've been to Rugby World Cups. I enjoy the social side of it. And personally, I've never really let myself get too into it because I'm quite compulsive. And I think if I start getting into the rugby, I'd be following them around the world as I am following Ireland. So, and I've got lots of friends who are in France and following the Irish team, and they follow the soccer team and they follow the cricket team, and that's just it. That's how they feel about Ireland. I mean, my sporting interests are horse racing, GAA with Kilkenny, and then the Irish football team. So, you know, I'm very proud when Ireland, you know, Aidan O'Brien wins the big races at Ascot and stuff, and at Cheltenham, especially when we have the Irish flag behind our jockeys, who the best of the world are Irish. And I think you should just get behind and support anyone who's Irish on the world stage.
Like I saw something the other day, and they said they'd rather see. This is from a football fan. They said they would rather see England win the Football World Cup than Ireland win the Rugby World Cup. And I remember thinking, imagine we did win. Like look, I'm someone who grew up playing football and rugby. I've coached football and rugby. You know, I obviously work with kids and stuff, and I coach both. I've coaching badges in both. I've played both. So I'm coming at it from both angles. But I'd obviously get an unbelievable buzz if we were to win a bloody World Cup in anything. Even I remember the women's hockey team were in the World Cup final, and I remember thinking, geez, I'd be buzzing if we won a World Cup in something. How shit would it be, Martin, if you woke up the morning after winning a World Cup and feeling no emotion, not giving a shit, and actually just being full of hate when really the country should be buzzing? And the argument is as well, you know, they kind of say, oh, they're all from D4, they're all private schoolboys. I mean, Tyke Furlong isn't a private schoolboy. Robbie Henshaw isn't a private schoolboy. Keith Earls is certainly not a private schoolboy. And whether they're private schoolboys or not, Martin, they're phenomenal athletes. They've got an outrageous mentality. There's the argument that, yes, it's only played by a certain amount of countries, but we've seen in this World Cup that the gap is slightly closing. You know, Fiji beat Australia. You know, I'm obviously half Portuguese. I've been following the Portuguese team, and I mean, they're not winning games, but they're playing phenomenally well. They would have been whitewashed in games, and they're actually putting in unbelievable performances. Got their first ever points in the World Cup against Georgia the other day, who are a more established nation from the lower ranked teams. So we've seen some cracking games. It's a decent sport. I think this whole kind of begrudgery comes from a lack of knowledge. It comes from a lot of assumptions. And as I said, coming back to my original point is, imagine us having the possibility to win a World Cup in a very, very impressive sport and having no emotion or no kind of joy from it. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just sad to see, really. I mean, you know, I'm not the biggest supporter of them, but, you know, I want them to see them do well. And, you know, I've got friends who really follow it and stuff, as I said. And, you know, Ireland are in a World Cup, and it's like the Olympics. You don't have to be a fan of all the Olympic kind of sports to kind of get behind someone, represent your nation and stuff. So I think the thing that kind of grates on some people is the anthem thing. Of course, that does annoy people, and I think that's what that's mostly. It's very political about that. And you know, I've seen people as well, you know, just don't like the Cranberry song basically, and how what that represents or was perceived to represent. And you know, I've seen people say, well, why is that fine for the rugby to sing it, and yet the Irish women's football team sang, you know, "Who Up the Ra" and stuff, and that was all condemned. So
it's just ammo. It's just ammo, really, Martin.
It is ammo.
You know, and look, it's probably a discussion for another day as a full episode. Like, I know we've been saying off air, obviously with Dave, that is something we discuss. I suppose the sporting rivalries with football, but you know, it's just the feckless comments that get me, the ones that just show a serious lack of knowledge of anything really, and assumptions. And as I said, like rugby is a very difficult sport to play. It's a very difficult sport to break into. It's, you know, it's unbelievable the stage that we've gotten to. And, you know, I honestly think that the footballers from schoolboy level the whole way up, I think they can take a huge leaf out of rugby's book. So rather than begrudging it, maybe the likes of the FAI, maybe the people who are involved in football begrudging the rugby team can take a leaf out of their book and maybe look at what's been successful there. You know, so it's just. I think there. So. As I said, probably Sorry, man.
That is definitely the thing, though. I think the key point, I think, is we want to see Irish football develop and kids get into sport and stuff. And if they're watching rugby, then they might try football, and then money's going to come in through sponsorship and success. And you know, if we win the Webb Ellis Trophy, I think, is it still that? You know, that'll be going on a nationwide tour of Ireland, and kids will be inspired, and they might also play other sports, and money comes in. I remember when Michelle Smith won the swimming in the Atlanta Games. You know, and I know there's allegations
before she took the piss, Martin.
Yeah, literally. But I think you've got to remember we didn't have an Olympic-sized swimming pool in Ireland at that time. So you know, those things all come because of success in spite of probably underinvestment in sports. So I think we want to inspire the next generation just to participate in sport, have a healthy nation. So if it's them watching rugby and finding heroes in that, no problem with it. Watching Cheltenham, seeing someone like AP McCoy is one of the greatest jockeys ever. Didn't grow up in horses or anything like that. Just saw, racing on TV. And when I want to try that, I want to have a go. Why can't I have a go at that? And then he ended up getting into racing. So that's what happens. And that's what, as a sporting nation, we should be very proud of it and not be so, condemning of it that, it's elitist and I'm never going to have a go at it. So I'm not going to get behind it because it's a lack of understanding.
Yeah, it is a lack of understanding. It's a bit of ignorance as well. And look, as I said, it will be a full podcast in the coming weeks, I suppose. So we'll go a bit more into it when I finally work out how to use StreamYard. Yeah, exactly. Right, so we're going to move on to the comments. So as always, get your comments in and have your say on anything we've discussed tonight. So first comment there from I'm a Mime. Is Kenny still there? Unbelievable, and makes you wonder if Ferguson is thinking, should I try my luck at trying to win a World Cup or should I stick with Stephen Kenny? Now, pretty poor comment to start off on because, as we know, Evan Ferguson is no longer eligible for England. Darrell O'Connor, story lads. And Graham Farrell, story lads, man the Saints. Oh, I'm not sure about that one. Graham, we need a 10. Azaz fits the bill, obviously in relation to Finn Azaz, who was fantastic this weekend. The Aldi version of Zinedine Zidane. Darrell O'Connor, Dave got the night off. Haha. He works very, very hard. Doesn't he, Martin? I mean, some people might even...
That's his job.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
So
we are missing him though.
Yeah, we are missing you, David. And just remember, it's your job. Darrell O'Connor, in response to I'm a Mime, he said himself he won't switch. It's old news and he'll be playing for us 100%, Darrell. And Graham Farrell, yes, it's the Amsterdam Arena, but it has been renamed in relation to the stadium getting thrashed and the stadium that we're going to be playing in a couple of months.
Yes,
a running team.
Is it the Johan Cruyff?
Johan Cruyff. Yeah, I thought it was Johan Cruyff. Yeah, so the Amsterdam Arena, I think it's a little bit like the Aviva Lansdowne Road, isn't it?
They might turn that back again.
Vera Pauw Arena.
Yeah.
Darrell O'Connor, good to see Connolly back in form. Goes to show if he keeps his head down. Watch Leeds versus Hull, and he gave a good assist. The fella that shot missed an opener. Yeah, open goal, wasn't it? That was missed just after the potential assist. Newey Nurick, a distinct lack of double Entendres on the show when Dave is not there. It's his job. Yeah. Graham Lee, being Team Kenny from day one until the Holland game. I wish we had gone for a new manager and given these winter games to find their feet. Yeah, I completely agree there, Graham. I think these couple of games, I know you're an opposing opinion there, Martin, but I do think he should have been a new manager or even an interim manager should have been given these couple of games to give the players a bit of a free shot at a competitive game, maybe cap a couple of players, give them some competitive experience, and maybe an international manager a free shot at a couple of competitive games. Peter Smith, what happened with Sinead Farrelly? Yeah, no Sinead Farrelly in the squad. Do you know what the story with that was, Martin? She really just came in for the World Cup, didn't she?
What I know of that was she has a back problem, I believe, and kind of the reason that she was omitted from the squad is that they felt that she couldn't travel long haul.
Yeah,
it wouldn't have done her any good to come back for this game. But yeah, it's there's a little bit of a nagging kind of thing in my mind on that one. Yeah, it was an interesting one, but yeah, that was the kind of the summation of why it wasn't. And I mean, look, Izzy Atkinson wasn't in the squad either. And then she got called up later on when one of my favourite players, Rusha, missed out sadly. And yeah, that was one of the things. Sadly, with Lucy's Quinn scoring, great pals of Rusha, I think it would have been a hell of a celebration on the pitch.
Yeah,
and a lot of stuff if we'd have seen that. But yeah.
That's
the story I know.
Something well choreographed. Declan Finnegan, Katie McCabe denying player power, played no part in Vera Pauw's departure, but has remained silent over Diane Caldwell's claim that she and Katie approached Ruth Doctor about a change of management. Interesting that.
Yeah, I think Kate is just being clever there, just that she's not being drawn on anymore, and she's really playing quite a good PR game with the media. It was interesting in her press conference how she was in stark contrast, wasn't it, to when the pre-France game in the warm-up match, where she said, "Oh, it's great to talk about the World Cup, guys." She was a bit kind of pissed off with them. She kind of did apologise for that the other day, saying it's great to talk about football and excitement and everything. And she is ultimately the poster girl of Irish women's football, and she's front and centre for everything. So, it's just photos of her, the demands on her, and I think she's a good leader still, and she's our most talented player. So, I think that is interesting, though. Yeah, that she's not. She's our leader, but she's not really a senior pro in the fact that she's going to be around for the next 5, 6, 7 years, isn't she? Diane Caldwell has come to the end of her career now, and it's easy for her to kind of come out with things because there's not really going to be any consequences for her playing time now.
Especially if you're a bit pissed off as well. Just a couple of comments coming in here on our brief rugby discussion. So Declan Finnegan, lots of Irish football fans have a hatred of GAA too, and I suppose that works both ways, Martin, doesn't it? Yeah. Darrell O'Connor, for me, I can't agree with rugby not flying our flag and playing our anthem. I get the reasoning, but without these symbols, it doesn't feel like Ireland for me. It's embarrassing. Well, look, I suppose it's the whole idea that they can't just have a tricolour, can't they not? And they do actually present, they do have the tricolour present at the anthems, don't they? And I guess the whole issue with the anthem is that you can only have one anthem in a World Cup or an away game, can't you? But they do play Ireland Aveen. Now, Ireland's call, I mean, horrendous song, regardless of your opinion or not. But, what is the solution then? What do they play? They're not going to play fucking Zombie, are they? Darrell O'Connor. Also, the issues of snobbery and upperclassism. I don't like rugby personally, but I'd rather Munster beat Leinster, and I'm from Dublin. Now, the classism thing, I don't know. Like, I mean, I've played on football teams and rugby teams in recent years. I'm playing for, well, not playing at the moment, but I have played for a predominantly working class rugby team, and there was certainly no snobbery there. So look, there's plenty of rugby communities, and they're not all upper class. Although that's the way that they are predominantly perceived at elite level. No pun intended there, but at elite level, most of those guys do make it. But again, just remember that they're coming through a private school system that is one of the best school systems for any sport in the world. And again, the football, having been involved in schoolboy football, the football schoolboy football section in the FAI can certainly take a leaf out of their book. I can tell you that. Shunak Roy, I follow Cricket Ireland only, but since Evan Ferguson came on stage, I've started following Ireland's football team. Good stuff, Shunak. Nice. Stephen Ring, I'm a big fan of both football and rugby, but I think a lot of people don't like the rugby atmosphere because there is a section of the rugby crowd, not the players, that have a greater than thou attitude. Possibly. I think it is a bit of a generalization. As I said, like I've been part of both communities and have seen both sides, but yeah, for sure. But I mean, you can say the same about John Delaney. Darrell O'Connor, football's best sport in the world for me. Also remember RTE showing underage rugby over at LOI, a League of Ireland. Media love rugby, but overlooks football all the time. I think a lot of that is kind of the deals that they have, the TV deals and so on. Graham, can't watch it. It does nothing for me. You can't play rugby on the street. That's very true. You get a few black eyes, wouldn't you? And you get a few broken arms and have no skin left on your arms. Newey Newark, I like the live show being on Mondays. You should do this permanently. Well, we'll see. We'll see about it. If I have it my way, Martin, it'll be every Sunday. Every Sunday at 9:30. Darrell O'Connor, I'll always support my country in anything, but it just doesn't feel like Ireland for me. Stephen Ring, I would love to see the FAI follow the IRFU's youth set up ideas, but at the end of the day, the IRFU don't want their best players playing abroad, whereas playing abroad is the only option for most of the footballers here. Good point. Darrell O'Connor, I think we will get 6 points next window. Obviously, Gibraltar win, but think we will just do the Greeks at home. Looking forward to Faro. Should be some crack. Obviously, the Gibraltar game taking place in Faro. And last comment of the day, when your GP annoys you, rude doctor. Sorry, lads, I had to.
Jesus, that's quite good. I like that.
I like that. I actually do like that. We'll take that one, won't we? The Dutch influence, there of rude doctor. So it's I like that, Darrell. We'll take that one to the bank, I suppose. So look, we are going to leave it there. Thanks again for tuning in, and apologies for the technical flatuous throughout the episode today. That's what happens.
Why is that? Why is that? That's you're hanging out. Whose hotspot are you reliant on?
Oh, I'm not going to give anyone some undue credit here. Not going to give anyone undue credit, but yeah, a few technical difficulties, and I'm owing it just to to David not being here. But he is working very hard.
He is.
He is working very hard, Martin, isn't he?
That's his job.
It is his job.
Roy Watch. Still got Roy Watch in there.
It is his job, Martin. Yeah, it is his job. But look, do make sure to like and subscribe wherever you follow or I suppose get your socials from us. I kind of messed that one up, Martin, didn't I? But basically, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You'll get all our bits and pieces on there. Good interaction from us, particularly on Twitter. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen, whether that be on Spotify, Apple, or anywhere else. And if you want to listen to the podcast for free, you can go on to thegreenmachinepodcast.com and you can select it from the episode section. So we will be back later in the week. We will be reacting to, I suppose, all of the action of next weekend's games and how our boys in green got on. So until next time, all the best and take care.